Hello. In the last class, we were discussing the synopsis part of Bohr's atomic model. And I have told you, according to Bohr's atomic model, electrons cannot revolve in all possible orbits. Instead, electrons can revolve only in certain permitted orbits called as stationary orbits. And in stationary orbits, electrons do not radiate any energy, right? And which are the stationary orbits, even that is specified in Bohr's atomic model? Those orbits in which angular momentum of electron is an integer multiple of h by 2 pi. Such orbit should be called as stationary orbits. ಯಾವ orbit ನಾಗ electron angular momentum integer multiple of h by 2 pi ಇರ್ತದೋ ಅದನ್ನ stationary orbit ಅಂತ ಕರಿಬೇಕು. And that is called as Bohr's quantization rule. MVR is equals to nh by 2 pi, right? And Bohr also specifies when can an electron radiate energy. Electron do not radiate energy when it is revolving in the stationary orbit. Instead, electron radiates energy when it makes a transition from higher orbit to a lower orbit. We have also discussed about Bohr's frequency condition. Now, in this class, we'll try to go through the equations for radius of an electron in the nth orbit of hydrogen atom. We have derived all these relations in theory. See, radius of an electron in nth orbit of hydrogen atom is given by Rn is equals to n square h square epsilon divided by pi m z square, where n represents principal quantum number. It represents the number of the orbit. H is Planck's constant. Epsilon naught is permittivity of free space. Pi m represents mass of electron. Z represents atomic number of the atom, and E is the charge on the electron. So radius of an electron in nth orbit is given by n square h square epsilon divided by pi m z square. See, this is radius expression for hydrogen-like atom. We know what are hydrogen-like atoms. Those atoms which have only one electron in them are called as hydrogen-like atoms. ಯಾವ ಆಟಮ್ನಾಗೆ ಒಂದೇ ಒಂದು ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಾನ್ ಇರ್ತದೋ ಆ ಆಟಮ್ನ ಹೈಡ್ರೋಜನ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಆಟಮ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಸಿಂಗಲ್ ಅಯನೈಸ್ಡ್ ಹೀಲಿಯಂ, double ionized lithium, these are all hydrogen like atoms. So hydrogen like atoms are those atoms which have got only one electron in them. So this equation can be used for hydrogen like atoms. For hydrogen atom, Z will be equal to 1. For hydrogen atom, Z will be equal to 1. Hydrogen like atoms, the value of Z may differ, but for hydrogen atom, Z will be equal to 1. If we substitute Z equal to 1 in this equation, then it becomes Rn is equal to n square h square epsilon divided by pi m z square. Remember, if you are asked to calculate radius of an hydrogen like atom, use this equation n square h square epsilon divided by pi m z square. Lithium, double ionized lithium atom, the electron radius find out ಮಾಡ್ರಿ ಅಂದ್ರು, ಅಥವಾ single ionized helium atom ನಾಗೆ electron orbit radius find out ಮಾಡ್ರಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ use this equation n square h square epsilon divided by pi m z square. Substitute the corresponding atomic number. If you are asked to find out the radius of electron orbit in hydrogen atom specifically, substitute Z is equals to 1, then Rn will be equal to n square h square pi m, Z iral 1 ಹಾಕಿರ್ತೀವಿ, pi m e square ಆಗ್ತದೆ. So from this relationship, E relationship in the Rn is equals to n square h square epsilon divided by pi m z square. E relationship ನಾಗ ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ H is Planck's constant, epsilon naught is permittivity of free space, which is constant again, pi is constant, mass of electron is constant, E charge on electron is also constant. So the variables are just n and z. These are the only two variables in this equation. So ಈ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಾನ್ಸ್ಟೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ನ ತೆಗೆದ್ರೆ h, epsilon naught, pi, m, e, ಈ ಕಾನ್ಸ್ಟೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ನ ತೆಗೆದಾಕ್ಬಿಟ್ರೆ for hydrogen like atom, radius of electron in nth orbit is proportional to n square by z. If you remove this constant h square, epsilon naught, pi m, e square, radius of electron in nth orbit will be directly proportional to n square divided by z. Or you can say radius of electron in nth orbit is directly proportional to square of principal quantum number and inversely proportional to the atomic number. So this is for hydrogen like atom. Whereas for hydrogen atom, see, if you look at the radius equation specifically for hydrogen atom, it is n square h square epsilon divided by pi m e square. H is constant, epsilon naught is constant, pi m and e are constant. So if you remove these constants, they have to be replaced by proportionality. So radius of electron in nth orbit of hydrogen atom will be directly proportional to square of the principal quantum number, right? So for hydrogen-like atom, it will be radius will be proportional to n square by z, and for hydrogen atom, radius of electron in nth orbit will be proportional to square of the principal quantum number, that is n square. So if you calculate the ratio of radii of electron orbit, say if you calculate ratio of first orbit and second orbit, ratio of radii of first and second orbit, the ratio of radii of first and second orbit will be r1 by r2 is equals to 1 by 2 whole square. See, radius of nth orbit is proportional to n square ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, if you calculate ratio of first radii of first and second orbit of hydrogen atom, r1 by r2 will be equal to first orbit ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ n will be 1, second orbit ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ n will be 2. So 1 by 2 whole square ಆಗ್ತದೆ, because radius is proportional to n square. Principal quantum number na square ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. Principal quantum number just represent number of orbit. First orbit, second orbit, that has to be whole square. 1 by 2 whole square, that will be 1 by 4. So ratio of radii of orbit, first orbit and second orbit of electron in hydrogen atom will be 1 by 4. This will be the ratio of radii of first and second orbit of hydrogen atom. Third and fourth orbit the ratio ಕೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, if you are asked to calculate ratio of radii of third and fourth orbit, r3 by r4 will be equal to 3 by 4 whole square ಆಗ್ತದೆ. R is proportional to n square. 3 by 4 whole square, 3 by 4 whole square will be 9 by 16, right? That will be the ratio of radii of electron orbit in hydrogen atom. If it is hydrogen like atom, then you will have to take into account even the atomic number, n square by z. Radius will be proportional to n square by z. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಕೇರ್ಫುಲ್ ಆಗಿ ಓದಬೇಕು. ಹೈಡ್ರೋಜನ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಆಟಮಿಕ್ ಕೇಳ್ತಿದಾರ, ಹೈಡ್ರೋಜನ್ ಆಟಮಿಕ್ ಕೇಳ್ತಿದಾರ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ. ಇದಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ you need to understand what is Bohr radius. We have discussed even about Bohr radius in theory. Radius of first orbit of electron in hydrogen atom. Radius of first orbit of electron in hydrogen atom is called as Bohr radius. First orbit the radius ಏನಿರ್ತದಲ್ಲ hydrogen atom ನಾಗೆ, ಆ orbit the radius ನಾವು Bohr radius ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. We know that the radius of nth orbit of hydrogen like atom is given. Hydrogen like atom ಬರೀತಿದ್ದೀವಿ. Hydrogen like atom the radius to n square h square epsilon divided by pi m z square. ಈ n square by z ವೇರಿಯಬಲ್ ಆಗಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಇದನ್ನು ಸಪರೇಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಈ ಕಡೆ ಬರ್ಕೊಂಡಿನಿ. n square by z is written separately. ಉಳಿದಿರೋದು h square epsilon naught divided by pi m e square. h square epsilon divided by pi m e square. So for hydrogen atom, see, for hydrogen atom and for first orbit, for hydrogen atom z will be equal to 1, and for first orbit n will be equal to 1. Principal quantum number n represent number of orbit. So for hydrogen atom, atomic number z will be equal to 1, and for first orbit n will be equal to 1. If you substitute it here, n is 1 and z is also 1 for hydrogen atom and for first orbit. Rn will become equal to h square epsilon divided by pi m e square. Either 1 substitute might be 1 by 1 is 1 into h square epsilon divided by pi m e square. H is 6.62 into 10 power minus 34, that must be whole square. Epsilon naught is 8.854 into 10 to the power of minus 12. Pi is 3.142. Mass of electron is 9.1 into 10 to the power of minus 31 kg. Charge an electron is 1.6 into 10 to the power of minus 19. That has to be whole square. Idishtunu evaluate madidre, if you evaluate this constant, it comes out to be 0.53, right? Idishtu radius, if you express it in angstrom, it will be radius of first orbit of hydrogen atom. Radius of first electron orbit in hydrogen atom will be 0.53 angstroms. It will be 0.53 angstroms. Remember this. E h square epsilon naught divided by pi m e square ಏನದಲ್ಲ, ಇದ್ರದ್ದು ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ 0.53 angstrom ಆಗ್ತದೆ. ಈ n square by z ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ನಾವು ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಆರ್ಬಿಟ್ ಅಂತ ತಗೊಂಡಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ n equal to 1 ಹಾಕಿವಿ. ಹೈಡ್ರೋಜನ್ ಆಟಮ್ ಅಂತ ತಗೊಂಡಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ z is equal to 1 ಹಾಕಿವಿ. If it is for second orbit, you have to substitute n is equal to 2. If it is for third orbit, you have to substitute n is equal to 3. Hydrogen atom other z will remain equal to 1, right? So just remember the value of this constant. The constant value ಎಷ್ಟಾಗ್ತದೆ ನೆನಪಿಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. It will be 0.53 angstrom. So generally radius of electron in nth orbit can be written as idishtu 0.53 angstrom. 0.53 angstrom into n square by z. Note, radius of electron in nth orbit can be generally written as 0.53 n square by z angstrom. If it is for hydrogen atom, and for second orbit 0.53, second orbit n is equals to 2 square, 4 divided by hydrogen atom means that is equals to 1 angstrom. You can directly calculate. Radius of third orbit bekandre 0.53, 3 square divided by hydrogen atom agirodrinda z is equals to 1 angstrom. You can directly make use of this formula to calculate radius of any electron orbit in hydrogen atom or in hydrogen like atom. Hydrogen like atom idru kuda ee z value change ಆಗ್ತಾ ಹೋಗ್ತದೆ ಅಷ್ಟೇ. Hydrogen atom is z is equals to 1. Hydrogen like atom ಯಾವ hydrogen like atom ಕೆಳಗೆ ನೋಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಅದ್ರದ್ದು atomic number substitute ಮಾಡ್ರಿ ಅಷ್ಟೇ, right? So my point is you can make use of this equation in general to calculate radius of electron orbit, radius of electron, any electron orbit in hydrogen atom. First orbit either n is equals to 1 or second orbit n is equals to 2, third orbit n is equals to 3, and so on. This is the value of this constant h square epsilon divided by pi m e square, right? So radius of electron, radius of nth orbit of electron in hydrogen or hydrogen like atom is given by 0.53 n square by z angstrom. ಇದಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ we know that for hydrogen atom, radius of nth orbit of electron is directly proportional to square of the principal quantum number. That means as the principal quantum number increases, radius of the electron orbit also increases. So if we plot graph of radius versus principal quantum number, radius versus principal quantum number, the nature of the graph will be like this. This is nature of graph between radius and principal quantum number. Idadmele you should also know velocity of electron in nth orbit of hydrogen atom. See, you know that electron will be revolving around the nucleus in stationary orbit. When it is revolving around the nucleus, it will have definite linear velocity, right? Actually angular velocity irtade, angular velocity can be expressed in terms of linear velocities. Linear velocity of the electron in nth orbit of hydrogen atom is given by hydrogen atom ಗೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದೀವಿ. So z is equals to 1 substitute ಆಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿರ್ತದೆ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ actually z ಬರಬೇಕು, z is equals to 1 substitute ಮಾಡಿ ಬರ್ದೀನಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ. Velocity of electron in nth orbit of hydrogen atom is given by e square divided by 2h epsilon naught, e square divided by 2h epsilon naught into n. This is the expression for velocity of an electron in nth orbit of hydrogen atom. Vn is equals to e square divided by 2h epsilon naught into n, where n again represents principal quantum number, right? Hagadre velocity of electron in nth orbit is inversely proportional to principal quantum number. Velocity of electron in nth orbit is inversely proportional to principal quantum number. That means as electron goes to higher and higher orbits, principal quantum number increase ಆಗ್ತಾ ಹೋಗ್ತದೆ. First orbit n is equals to 1, second orbit n is equals to 2, third orbit n is equals to 3, and so on. So as electron goes to higher and higher orbits, as the value of n increases, the velocity of the electron in that orbit goes on decreasing. That means as electron goes to higher and higher orbits, its velocity goes on decreasing, right? So velocity of electron in nth orbit is inversely proportional to the principal quantum number. This is to be remembered. So if we plot graph between velocity and the principal quantum number, this will be the nature of the graph. Idun rectangular hyperbola anta karitivi, idanna parabola anta karitivi. This is parabolic graph, right? So this is regarding the variation of velocity with principal quantum number. Idu ನೆನಪಿಟ್ಕೊಳ್ರಿ, this is the expression for velocity of electron in nth orbit of hydrogen atom. Hydrogen like atom ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ನ್ಯೂಮರೇಟರ್ ನಾಗೆ ಈ e ಸ್ಕ್ವೇರ್ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ z ಬರೀರಿ. z e ಸ್ಕ್ವೇರ್ ಡಿವೈಡೆಡ್ ಬೈ 2h epsilon naught n ಆಗ್ತದೆ ಹೈಡ್ರೋಜನ್ ಲೈಕ್ ಆಟಮ್ ಇದೆ, ರೈಟ್? ವೆಲಾಸಿಟಿ ಇಕ್ವೇಶನ್ ಹ್ಯಾಂಗ್ ಮಾಡಿವಿ ಅದನ್ನ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ತೋರಿಸ್ತೀನಿ, ನೀವು ಒಂದು ಸರ್ತಿ ಆಮೇಲೆ ನೋಡ್ಕೊಡ್ರಿ ಇದನ್ನು. For electron to revolve around the nucleus, centripetal force is required. That centripetal force will be provided by Coulomb's force of attraction between nucleus and the electron. See, for this electron to revolve around the nucleus, the necessary centripetal force is provided by Coulomb's force between nucleus and the electron. So necessary centripetal force is provided by Coulomb's force. Centripetal force is given by mv square by r. Coulomb's force is 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught. Q1 ಜಾಗದಾಗೆ ZE ಬರ್ದೀನಿ, Q2 ಜಾಗದಾಗೆ E ಬರ್ದೀನಿ. Q1 Q2 divided by R square. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು R ಗೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು R ಕ್ಯಾನ್ಸಲ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಲೆಫ್ಟ್ ಔಟ್ ವಿತ್ mv square is equals to ZE square by 4 pi epsilon naught R square ಇರಲ್ಲ, ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ LHS ನಾಗ ಒಂದು R ಗೆ RHS ನಾಗ ಒಂದು R ಕ್ಯಾನ್ಸಲ್ ಆಗಿಬಿಡ್ತದೆ. So it will be left out with mv square is equals to ZE square by 4 pi epsilon naught. If we make use of Bohr's second postulate, you know that angular momentum of electron mvr should be equal to nh by 2 pi. Now you divide these two equations. Here equation divide madri, you will find that velocity of electron in nth orbit is ZD square by 2nh epsilon naught ಅಥವಾ 2h epsilon naught ಅಂತ ಹಾಗನ ಬರಿಬಹುದು. This is for hydrogen like atom. ನೋಡ್ರಿ Z ಬಂದಿದೆ. Hydrogen atom ಗಾದ್ರೆ Z will be equal to 1, so E square 2nh epsilon naught. This will be the expression for velocity of the electron in nth orbit. ಇದಿಷ್ಟು ನೋಡ್ಕೊಳ್ರಿ. In the next class we'll discuss about the total energy of the electron in nth orbit. Once you go through the expression for radius of electron in nth orbit, velocity of electron in nth orbit, how does radius depend upon principal quantum number, how does velocity of electron in nth orbit depends upon principal quantum number, ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಒಂದ್ಸರಿ ನೋಡ್ಕೊಳ್ರಿ. ಯಾಕಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಮಗೆ ಡಿಪೆಂಡೆನ್ಸಿಸ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಬರ್ತದೆ. So you must be knowing how does radius depend upon principal quantum number, how does radius depend upon atomic number for hydrogen like atom, how does velocity depend upon atomic number for hydrogen like atom. See, velocity is proportional, directly proportional to atomic number for hydrogen like atom and inversely proportional to principal quantum number. ಈ proportionalities ನೋಡ್ಕೊಳ್ರಿ. In the next class we'll discuss about total energy of the electron, relationship between kinetic energy and potential energy of electron, relationship between total energy and kinetic energy of the electron. ಇದಿಷ್ಟ ಆಯ್ತು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಮುಗೀತದೆ. ಇದಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ we'll start solving the MCQ.